Alright people, there was a juicy patch today on PC. But first I need to show you something that I just discovered like 10 seconds ago that's really funny. So, look. Oh, it didn't work! That's embarrassing. Of course it's not gonna do it now that I am trying to get it to work. Well, this is not what I was attempting to achieve with this, but this works too, I guess. This is us now. I'm like this now. A lot of stuff was changed today, and I wanted to start off by talking about the auction house area, which is where we are in Protector's Enclave, but you may not recognize it because it no longer has all the wooden decks and stuff here. That's actually been removed and the whole area has been cleaned up to allow for some further construction in the area. We don't know what kind of construction yet, but something's going to be put here at some point in the future, and it's probably going to be something shopping related. That's my guess, I don't know. A bunch of general stuff was fixed today, and that includes like outdated information in NPCs that you talk to, typos, and then also references to the outdated Paragon paths. So all that general stuff was taken care of, and then if you happen to be a Sentinel Barbarian and your life sucks, you can now go back and complete the training day quest. And now I feel like everyone deserves the right to train their skills, and you can do that now. One of my favorite updates for today is that the Vault of Stars dungeon is now account-wide when unlocked. That's very exciting for me. I was very upset to find out that it was not account-wide. It felt like a step backwards, because dungeons used to be that way, where you had to unlock them all on each character every time you wanted to run it, and then they moved towards having everything be account-wide. Excuse me, sir, I'm talking. They moved towards everything being account-wide as far as dungeons and trial unlocks went, and then with the Vault of Stars one, basically we went back in time and I could only do it on my cleric. I wanted to do it on my bard, and now I can. So yeah. Also, if you've been leveling a character or if you've been to the chasm at all recently, you may have noticed that some parts of the world just decided they were going to disappear sometimes. That's been fixed, so you no longer have to do a reality check every time you go there, and you don't need to go to a mental asylum either because you are not crazy, it was actually disappearing. If you've been missing your lack of achievement getting, you'll now get an achievement whenever your character hits level 10. And it does retroactively apply if you reached level 10 previously, which should be the majority of you if you've leveled new characters. And then kind of related to leveling as well, if you were stuck on the Shimmering Keys step of the 5 Keys to Success quest, you can now actually progress through the quest and continue on without making a mess. That was my attempt at spontaneous rhyming, and I regret everything. This next thing is something that I think I've seen like 6 times now in the patch notes. That might be an exaggeration, but it certainly feels like I've seen it a lot. The door to the Protector's Garden is now, you know, able to be opened if you've unlocked it. The door seems to have like some rusty hinges or something, and it's gotten stuck closed a lot over the past couple months. But, you know, I think they finally hired a competent door fixer. What is the job title for someone who fixes doors? They finally hired a competent home improvement specialist, and they finally, you know, expended the money to buy these really durable hinges for the people who are very clearly going in and out of that area often. You know, all 10 of them. Sorry, that was a little savage. Anyway, the vendor for the Coins of Joaquin event in the Moonstone Mask finally got the message that he should go home and stop stop loitering on the property. He's not supposed to be there whenever it's not his time to shine, and he stayed anyway. It was really rude. He was eating all the food and stuff. Very unacceptable. And now we shall move on to some class-related stuff. A couple things that actually impact me. Actually, a total of 1. As far as the Bard goes, performance mode should now work more smoothly with AZERTY keyboards, which, to be honest with you, I forgot those existed, and I've never used one or seen one in real life. But also, if you've been using the default keybinds, it should now properly allow moving to the left while you're in performance mode. I'm assuming that also applies to those with AZERTY keyboards also, because that's not something that I have noticed. But if you are one of those strange people who use such a keyboard, I'm sorry for judging you for your keyboard choices, but actually, I'm not really that sorry. If you own a Wand of Wonders, which I don't because I've never completed Acquisitions Incorporated, the Gust of Wind power that it has will no longer knock back CC immune enemies, and then the same thing for the Manticore's Tailspin power. It also would knock back enemies that were supposed to be CC immune, and it no longer does that anymore. One last thing for mounts, the Rejuvenating Favor mount power, the one that heals you, it now says that it heals a percentage of max HP instead of just saying like, yo, this is gonna heal you. You can actually have a kind of semi-okay idea as to how much you're actually going to be healed. 7.2% of my maximum HP with an 80% bolster. To be honest, not feeling that that's kind of worth it, although, I mean, nothing has changed with it. It still does the same as it did before, it just never said what it did before. All these people keep walking in front of me, I should find somewhere better to practice my air sitting. Now, the one thing that does apply to me here is the Drow race, which is, you know, what I am as my bard. And the Drow have a racial power thingy that reduces the target's defense for 5 seconds. And it has been improved. Instead of having a 5% activation chance, it now has a 10% activation chance, and now it properly works as well. So, you know, if you see that pop up on an enemy, it will actually do something now. And then if you happen to own the Renegade Drow race, that power also reduces the target's defense and then also reduces the damage that the enemy deals, because it's supposed to be like super better than normal Drow because you have to pay for it or something. And that also has a 10% activation chance. Anyways, if you've fought Valindra at any point in the recent past, I almost said the recent future, that would have been really confusing. You may have noticed that Valindra has an attack called Profane Fire that sometimes will deal 0 damage to you. I've noticed it. I don't expect everyone to have noticed it, but I did. And that's fixed so it doesn't deal 0 damage anymore, so you don't get to feel like an immune tanky boss man whenever you fight her for that, you know, half second or so. And in the Infernal Citadel, the Hellfire Engine boss has less health now than previously. I don't know how much less health. To be honest with you, I didn't really feel that that boss was too difficult as it was. If anything, it's just more so the players not knowing how to deal with the floor issue in that boss. Because if you know how to manage your floor and you're all like not minimum item level, you should be able to complete it if you know the mechanics. The problem is that a lot of people don't, which is an issue that I will be discussing. Well, I'll be kind of discussing that issue along with some other issues with Dead Mono later this week. Actually, next week. Next week, we're going to have a debate, and it's going to be very debatey, kinda. And last but not leastly, for dungeons, if you've ran Lair of Lost Mouth recently, which you probably have, you might have noticed that the door to the final boss room, like, looks like it got hit by an earthquake or, like, some massive explosion or something, and it doesn't know how to open correctly anymore. It was opening like at all these weird angles, and here's a picture. So they fixed that door too. I guess the home improvement specialist from the Protector's Garden door issue also was hired to fix the more advanced magical door of the Lair of Lost-Mouth area, and that door is also fixed. And ladies and gentlemen, we are only halfway done, so please bear with me. These next changes are actually some of the better ones in my opinion. So if you are a bard, you can now open the Grey Cloak gear pack. Congratulations. And if you are a bard, you will notice that some of the icons for some of the different bard weapons have been improved. If you got the Eclipse Lion, you can now use it at level 2 instead of level 4. Not something I noticed because I didn't try to claim it on a new character, but if you are one of the few people who PvP, you can actually get glory from the PvP again now. Apparently it wasn't dropping glory before, I wouldn't know. The Masquerade of Liars event is coming up in about 2.5 months, and the ingredients that you would use, I don't know if you would call them ingredients, but like the items that you would need to exchange for the witch's broomstick, or whatever that broomstick mount was called, they are now going to be bind to account for ones that you get in the future. If you already have some in your inventory, the binding status is not going to be changed, but if you do happen to get them from this point forward, they will be bind to account. You can transfer them to your alts and get your alts all this fabulous broomsticks that you could ever want and live out your Harry Potter fantasies. If any of you have purchased the supercharged bundle from the recent charity package event thing, the Star Rover gear pack can now be reclaimed by everyone who has bought the pack, and the reclaimable one will provide all 4 of the Star Rover items. It was incorrectly only giving you a choice of 1 or only 1 or something similar, and people were salty. That's nothing new. All right, time for the most juiciest, bestest parts of this video. There are some things that are no longer available in the Zen market, but they are now available in the Wondrous Bazaar. These include the appearance change tokens, the character loadouts, and the rename tokens. So if you ever wanted any of those, they're now available in the Wondrous Bazaar, and I will tell you the prices right now. So the appearance change token is default 200k, the character loadout slot is defaulted at 400, and then the rename token is defaulted at 300. Of course, if you have VIP or there's a Wondrous Bazaar sale, the prices will be lower, as you can see. And then something else with all of the keys in the Wondrous Bazaar. This is actually not listed in the patch notes as far as I know, or maybe I haven't gotten to that part yet. But all these keys that are in here can be purchased infinitely as long as you have the Astro Diamonds to, you know, pay for it. There was not supposed to be a cooldown whenever you were buying all these keys. We all originally thought that the Greater Demonic Key not having a cooldown was a bug, but it was actually intended, and you can now buy any key you want as many times as you want as long as you have money. It goes without saying that the Wondrous Bazaar has been reorganized a little bit, as I'm sure you've already noticed. There's now 3 categories: main, adventuring, and equipable, and, you know, they contain the things that you would expect, kind of. And some other things that were changed in the Zen market. The Adventurer's Head Start bundle is no longer available, same with the Adventurer's Support Pack and the Avernus Hunt Key bundle, and Glory Boosters. All of those things have been removed. And like I said, the other things that were removed are now in the Wondrous Bazaar instead. Something you might have noticed very shortly after logging in is the ability score area of the character sheet has been greatly condensed and still contains all of the same information, but, you know, in a much smaller footprint, which is great whenever you have all these other numbers to look at instead. And the other thing that was changed is the title list now has a maximum height. This is not a very good example because this character doesn't have that many titles, but, you know, if you've ever had a character that has like 50 trillion titles and it would just scroll off the screen, it's not going to do that anymore. In the PvP leaderboard area window thing, there's no longer any sort of reference to PvP seasons because they're no longer running, so you can no longer be confused by that information that does nothing. Another thing that you will notice as soon as you open the game is that the cryptic logo screen has this cool new background, which is nice. I was getting kind of tired of looking at the black screen for like 6 years. To be honest, it didn't really bother me that much, but I do like the new one. So, something that I'm not entirely sure if it affected me or not, because I don't know what my setting was before this, but they wanted to reduce the clutter in combat, and so as a result, they turned the show player triggered power names setting to be off by default, and that also applies to existing characters. So if you wanted that on, you'd have to go to the interface tab, open up HUD, and then show player triggered power names. Interesting. I've learned that I apparently have no cooldowns at the moment. I don't know what I have done to myself to break my character this badly, but I can now cast Infinite Duet when I am outside of the training room and outside of the dungeon and... Alright, moving on, I'll tackle that problem later. As I was saying, you can turn it back on if you would like to. I don't remember if it was defaulted onto before, but I assume that since they had to mention that the default is now off, that it was probably on before, so I'm just going to turn it on. 2 more things that I wanted to cover, and just a reminder, as always, I'm not going over everything that's in the patch notes, only what I deem is most important and worth mentioning. So if you are curious about what the other changes were, or if any of them will impact you in any way, you can always check out the full patch notes that are in the description of this video. Second to last is that if you have a lot of stuff in your inventory and you open your inventory, there should be less of a performance hit. You should not like stutter at all. And this is especially true if you are working with the smaller inventory UI. Like I always have my inventory large, as you can see, but if you had a smaller one, it would be more laggy, and they fixed that a little bit, so it's, you know, not as laggy. Anyway, one last thing that I haven't seen Valindra recently, like within the past day, but they say, the word is on the street that Valindra had a little bit of a glow up, so maybe she got like past her puberty stage finally, and She's now looking like a true, powerful, dangerous woman. Yeah, I guess I'll find out. Anyways, that's all for today. I know this video was longer than usual, but there were a lot of changes to cover today, and I wanted to cover all the important ones. Thank you all for watching or listening or whatever. Hopefully you all are having a fantastic day, evening, dawn, dusk, midnight, or afternoon, wherever you happen to live in the world. This video was late because the patch notes came out at like 2 a.m. for me, and I don't have time for that. But, you know, maybe someone will appreciate it anyways, so let me know if you did. And I am gonna leave now. Okay, bye!